Hi everyone, my name is Pawan. Uh, and if you have seen my videos, you would know I'm trying to record videos for questions which I think could get asked during the interviews. The one that I'm going to cover today is JavaScript, and it's an interesting question, which is to build SpyOn. I know you guys must have used this a lot during your uh, testing. So there are jest, SpyOn methods. A lot of these unit testing libraries, they all come up with a SpyOn method, which helps you find out if a function was invoked or not. It helps you find out what were the arguments that were passed to that function, and also helps you find out how many times the function got invoked. So in this case, we have an object and we have a method name. What we have to implement is to find out uh, uh, how many times the function. We just need to return back an array with the key as calls of all the arguments that were passed to this function, which is going to be the. So if you see over here, spy should have calls as an array, which holds all the arguments for the function. Cool. Let's go about implementing this. It's important that you do ask questions during the interview. Please ask them what would be the case when the function is not defined. What should SpyOn do? Uh, if I were to ask that question, and based on the test that was defined over here in this medium, which is BFF Dev, it's pretty awesome. I would always recommend folks to go and try this one out. Even the great Frontend is actually really good. As part of the test over here, you're supposed to throw an error if the function is not defined. So we'll implement that. So let's first, what we're going to do is store the function into a temporary variable, which is object.methodName. Now, if type of temp is equals to undefined, which implies that the function was not defined, we're going to throw a new error, uh, which just, we just say that function is not defined. Obviously, you might want to give the function name and also the method name and add more features to your error message. But for now, for the sake of simplicity of this interview, we'll just throw an error. Now, what we are going to do is, this is important, that we are going to override the function, which is object.methodName. That's why we stored this into a temporary variable, because we are going to override and do something which we would want as part of the expectation of this function, which is push into an array the arguments and assign the original function back to the object method, so that we don't, and also invoke the original method as part of the function we are going to override. Uh, we won't assign it back. Apologies for that. We are just going to invoke and call the function as part of the overridden function that we are going to have. So now in this case, we are going to get the arguments, right? Let's store an calls array outside. We are going to push into calls, the args, which was the expectation of the question. And now we are going to take the temp function, which was the original function, and we are going to invoke that. The reason why I did not use an arrow function over here is because we need the context, which is this, because we want the original function to be invoked with the appropriate context and the arguments passed to it. So always remember, this should be a non-arrow function. Need not be a name function, but should be a non-arrow function. And we are pushing into the array the arguments, and we are just going to return calls, which is the expectation of this method. As you can see, uh, there's no signature defined over here, but this is what the expectation of the return is. So let's execute this. Awesome. So it got executed. So let's go over the question again and discuss the approach that we took. The first thing is ask your interviewer what happens if the method name is not available in the object. If they say you're supposed to throw an error, please throw an error. If they ask you to do something else, you can do that as per the expectation of the question. Next is we are storing a variable with an empty array. We are overriding the object method, keeping the original one stored in a temp variable, and we are going to invoke the temp as part of the overridden function and pass the arguments into the array that we are storing on the top as part of the closure and return that. Cool. So this is SpyOn. Please feel free to add any comments to the video if you're having any questions. But once again, this is a straightforward implementation. If you've done this, it's straightforward. If you have not done it, it usually takes some time to get the clarity and come with a solution. That's why I recommend at least giving this a try and trying this once on your own so that you're comfortable with this question. Thank you very much, folks.